So you've decided that you wanted to go vegan or vegetarian, or maybe you just want to add more plant-based foods into your lifestyle. Well, that's amazing, but how do you start this? Well, I'm here to tell you all about it. I'm really excited that you have decided to add more plant-based foods into your lifestyle, but I just need to say something. My goal is not to convince you to become vegan or vegetarian in this video. My goal is to help you transition into that kind of lifestyle if you've decided to do so. Because remember, you should always do what you think is best for yourself. If you decide to go vegan or vegetarian, then I would recommend that you talk to your doctor or to your dietitian about making such a change. I personally am not a doctor or a dietitian, but I can tell you that I have been vegan for over 2 years, and it has made me feel better, it has made me happier, and it has opened up a whole new world of foods, which I didn't know about before I was vegan. So remember, always do what you think is best for yourself. Okay, let's get into the tips. So my first tip for anyone who's thinking about going vegetarian or vegan is to figure out why you want to go vegetarian or vegan. I think the reality is that when you decide to go vegan or vegetarian, there may be some obstacles or challenges that come into your way as you decide to transition into this kind of lifestyle. But when you figure out your why, it's really easy for you to come back to that and to stay committed to it. I don't think you should go vegan or vegetarian just because you think, oh, it's gonna be like cool or it's gonna be like a fun challenge. Because once you figure out why you are doing so, you will stay committed to it. So maybe your why could be for the animals, maybe it could be for the environment, or maybe it could be for your own health, or even for religious reasons. So figure out your why so that you can stay committed to it. Now the second tip that I have for you guys is to go into this with an open mind. There's a lot of myths that have been spread throughout the internet about people who are vegan or vegetarian, and I'm not going to get into all of them, but I made a separate video about that which I'll include right up here. But there's a lot of people who think that being vegan or vegetarian is expensive, or that it's not healthy, or that the food does not taste good. I think it's important that when you decide to add more plant-based foods into your lifestyle, you completely forget about all of these negative thoughts that have come your way. Because the reality is, if you go into being vegan or vegetarian with this negative mindset, then you're not going to enjoy it and it's going to feel like a punishment. But if you go into it thinking about all of the positive things that you've heard about, then it may actually be very much worthwhile for you. So forget about all of the negative things that you've heard and just go into it with an open mind. By the way, if you're enjoying this video, please consider liking it and subscribing down below. I make videos about climate change and environmentalism pretty regularly on this channel, and I know you don't want to miss out on them. Now the third tip that I have for you is to figure out all of the substitutes that you can find. So what do I mean by that? Well, there's a lot of plant-based versions of just about anything that you already eat which might have meat and dairy in them. For example, for meat, you can substitute it with tofu, you can substitute it with beans, lentils, and a bunch of other plant-based protein sources. And did you know that there's even this thing called mock meats that you can find in the grocery store? And usually this is tofu that is flavored to taste like meat. So you can find things like mock steak or mock chicken, and that's going to help you maintain the taste of a lot of the foods that you already eat. And as far as dairy is concerned, you can find things like almond milk or soy milk or coconut milk from the store. And there's a bunch of different versions of plant-based cheese and plant-based ice cream and so on and so forth. So I think it's important that you figure out what these substitutes are so that you can find them in the grocery store, and they will help you transition into a plant-based lifestyle. Now the fourth tip that I have for you is to first become comfortable with being vegetarian. Now if you're already vegetarian and you want to figure out how you can become vegan, then you can skip ahead to this timestamp right here. But for those of us who eat meat or fish or eggs, I think it's first important that you focus on cutting out these items first. And the most important thing that you can do here is to take it slow and steady. There are some people who can just instantly jump from all of this and cutting it out overnight, but I'll be honest, I'm not one of them. It took me about a month or two before I was finally able to find replacements for all these foods. So for example, right now, if you eat meat twice a day, I want you to first focus on eating meat just once a day. And remember how we found those substitutes earlier? I want you to start eating those substitutes. So maybe for the first week, just focus on eating meat once a day. And then for the next week, try it doing 3 times a week. and then maybe 2 times a week, and then once a week, before you finally remove it all. Personally, I love lentils, beans, and tofu, and I think that these are great substitutes for meat. So again, first become comfortable with becoming vegetarian. Now the 5th tip that I have for you is, you've probably guessed it, become comfortable with being vegan. So we've already focused on cutting out the meat, fish, and the eggs, and now we have to focus on cutting out the dairy. So I think the easiest thing that you can do here is to first replace your milk with plant-based milk alternatives. Personally, I love soy milk and I love pea milk, and I think that they work great in my smoothies. And like I said earlier, you can find plant-based cheese, plant-based ice cream, and a bunch of other dairy-free alternatives in the store. And just like with the last tip that I said, we have to do this slowly and steadily. So right now, if you eat dairy 3 times a day in breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I would focus on eating it just twice a day. And try doing that for a whole week. And then try doing it once a day. And then 3 times a week, 2 times a week, 1 time a week. And then finally try to remove it all. And the reason we have to do this slowly and steadily is because it takes time to find these alternatives and these substitutes, and it takes time to figure out what we like and what we don't like. And it helps our bodies transition into this lifestyle more smoothly as well. So once you've become comfortable with being vegetarian, the next step is to go vegan. Okay, so tip number 6 that I have for you is to focus on consistency. So what do I mean by that? I mean that it's important that you keep your intentions in check of becoming vegan or vegetarian as you decide to transition into this kind of lifestyle. For me personally, it took about a month before I finally got comfortable with living this way. And the thing is, I messed up a ton of times by accidentally eating meat and dairy here and there. So if this happens to you, seriously, don't worry about it. And the reality is, even to this day, I have to be flexible to some extent. Maybe I go to a restaurant and there's nothing vegan on the menu. Or maybe I'm on vacation and I can't find anything vegan. Or maybe I'm at a party and there's nothing vegan. And in that case, it's seriously okay, don't stress it. But what's important is that you keep your intentions in check about staying committed to this kind of lifestyle so that you can keep doing it on and on and on. So if you mess up, seriously, don't worry about it, just try to do better next time and you will. And finally, the last tip that I have for you guys is to find a supportive community. The reality is that only a small percentage of all people in the world are vegetarian or vegan. So if you're able to find other people who are also vegan or vegetarian, I promise you they will support you in your actions and your transition into a plant-based lifestyle. And I think the best way to find these groups is to go on Facebook. There are a ton of Facebook groups where people post recipes and tips on how to transition and why they decide to do it. So my best tip for you is to go on Facebook and find these groups and start interacting with them. And as far as recipe goes, I find just about all of my plant-based recipes on YouTube or Pinterest. And honestly, the people who make those videos are amazing. So shout out to all those people who make those videos and make a plant-based lifestyle amazing for me and everybody else. So find your support system, and I promise you this is going to be a whole lot more fun and enjoyable for you. And that's it. Those are my 7 tips on how to transition into a plant-based lifestyle. So I'm really excited for all of you who are deciding to go vegan or vegetarian, and I hope this transition works out smoothly for you. And you can absolutely comment down below with any questions that you might have, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. But thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like this video and subscribe down below for any future videos that I make about climate change and how we can preserve the environment for future generations. Alright, bye everybody.